Picking the perfect ranged weapon in Terraria can be tricky, as there's just so many fantastic options throughout hard mode. You could pair holy arrows with a bow, use chlorophyte bullets with a gun, or select a unique ranged weapon that uses its own ammunition. Today, we're going to be looking at a gun that, despite only being compatible with a rather bizarre ammo type, can actually pack a surprising punch and in many ways is the perfect ranged weapon for all kinds of different scenarios. Of course, I'm talking about the candy corn rifle. Keeping in Halloween spirit, this is of course a pumpkin moon drop. The question we have to ask ourselves is, does the performance of this rifle make it worth getting for the short time frame it's relevant? Before we delve into this, however, if you enjoy watching my weapon reviews, don't forget to subscribe as it really does help out the channel. We're actually approaching 100k, so it'd be absolutely awesome to have you along for the journey. Anyway, let's take a look at the best ways to get your hands on this thing. As mentioned, the candy corn rifle is a pumpkin moon drop, and therefore will require us to craft the pumpkin moon medallion to summon it. You'll require 30 pumpkins, which should be all over your world right now, as it is the Halloween season. You'll also need ectoplasm, which is dropped from dungeon spirits which occasionally spawn after killing dungeon enemies. And finally 10 hallowed bars, which are dropped by any of the 3 mechanical bosses. With this, you can craft the medallion at an anvil. Okay, so to maximize your chances of obtaining the candy corn rifle during the event, we're going to want to pass the waves as quickly as possible. For this, I'd dig a large hole and fill it with a thin layer of lava. I'd also gather as many traps as possible from your lizard temple, as this will speed up the beginning of the event massively. As per usual, we're on the lookout for the Pump King, which has a base drop rate of 1.79%, which scales to a maximum of 12.5% of dropping the candy corn rifle. Your best bet is honestly just getting to wave 10 as quick and safely as possible, and then fighting a Pump King separately using a weapon like the nail gun, which should be able to take them out pretty quickly. Hopefully you'll be as lucky as me and get it on your first kill. Oh, and yet I have no idea where that guy came from. Okay, so let's take a look at its performance. The candy corn rifle unsurprisingly fires candy corn ammo. The projectiles are affected by gravity and aren't airborne for long. However, they can pierce up to 2 enemies and, more impressively, ricochet up to 4 times. This combination of attributes makes these bullets deadly, as it can very quickly turn any space into a field of bouncy high damage projectiles. Its piercing can make for some pretty impressive DPS on lines of enemies too, as it doesn't appear to have any damage fall off. This, combined with its rather high base damage of 44, makes it able to effortlessly take out multiple tanky enemies with ease. Okay, let's see how it fares against some bosses. Against Golem, the weapon performed extremely well, as the bouncing and piercing made it very easy to hit multiple segments of the boss at a time. You'd probably even have an easier fight if you fought him in the altar room itself. So what about a faster moving target like Duke Fishron? For me, this fight really shows this weapon in its worst case scenario, as its only weakness for me is its limited range. And if I'm completely honest, it wasn't even as bad as I imagined. Although the candy corn sometimes arced away from my cursor, for a majority of the fight, the Duke didn't even go far enough away for this to be a problem, and I was able to take him out in a very respectable time. I really don't think there's anything this weapon can't do for when you get it, and I actually found it to be one of the absolute best options for the dreaded tier 3 Old Ones army. Like, this just made most of it laughably easy. If you just stand still in the middle with stealth mode and shoot either side, the bouncing and piercing will deal with most things before they can even get on screen. Now and again I had to aim up to kill flying enemies, and of course had to move about a bit to defeat Betsy, but other than that it made the Old One's army ridiculously easy and was a close contender to even something like the Charge Blaster Cannon. So now we've got to consider the big question. We can all agree this weapon is great, but like everything between post-Plantera and pre-Pillar progression, is it actually worth grinding for? And for me, that's entirely up to you. If you're going to blitz through this part of the game and just get a Vortex Beater, don't bother, but if you want to farm events like the Frostmoon and the Old One's army, the candy corn rifle is a must-have. Thanks for watching. For more Terraria content like this, drop a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.